welcome to this episode of the Gunman Raw. So today we have a Ford Territory. So spraying down the side, we've got all these bolt-on parts. So there's the body molds, door handles, mirrors, sill covers, and front and rear bumpers. So let's get straight into it. So yeah, this is one of those jobs that might not look like that big of a job, but it really has taken a fair bit longer to get where I am. I think I've got about an hour and a half until it's home time on Friday. So yep, this job is Friday at the moment as I'm making this vid. Obviously you guys are on a little bit of a delay. I've got to get it home, edit it. Well, I don't do much editing on this channel anymore, but I do have to throw the video into the video editor and render it into one clip that I can then upload to YouTube. But yeah, so I started on this job yesterday, and luckily I did because the repairs really weren't that good. So I ended up having to block them down and re-prime them. That's why you can see it's got dark primer on there. I thought I'd give that dark primer one more shot, but what I did this time was put some fast reducer in it, mostly fast reducer, but the tech data sheet said don't use 100% fast reducer or 450 thinners, that's the number. So I put a little bit of the medium in there as well. It said don't put all fast reducer in or else it can cause adhesion issues. So yeah, and it dried down and it blocked down quite nicely this morning. I tried using this, well I did use this primer, which technically is actually wet on wet. It's actually the exact same product as what you see on these panels here. I used that on a full respray I did on the channel. You've probably seen it. It was a C200 Benz, and I used slow in it because of what it said on the data sheet, and it just took forever to dry. Yeah, I would actually like to see them like do that on a regular basis, like at this shop, but through PPG it seems like they don't have like a sandable primer which they recommend like as a high build primer. I think this stuff here that I put on there, as I said, it is that primer, but I don't think that they actually recommend it from PPG to like batch prime or to do your batch of putty ups at the end of each day. So yeah, bit of a strange thing, but PPG can be a little bit strange sometimes. Yeah, it's sort of frustrating, this job. It's I just feel like it's taking me forever, because I don't know, you guys know what I'm like. I just like getting in and smashing the jobs out, but I just feel like it's taking me forever. But I'm most of the way there now. What was that? Yeah, it's the lid shutting. So I ran my base coat through the viscosity cup again today, just out of interest to be honest. So it's actually started cooling down a little bit. It's about 23 degrees today. Yesterday was a bit of a stinking hot day, so but yeah, I just mentioned that because of the viscosity. It will possibly change the viscosity a little bit. So it was 23 degrees, that was my paint, the base coat, and it's running through the cup at 30 seconds. And that's running 20% reducer. So it's thinner than usual. Another strange thing that like PPG, they kind of like, they contradict themselves, you know, like if you read the technical data sheet for EnviroBase, like for this base coat, it says 23 to 26 seconds, right? Okay, sweet. But then when you go into the computer, their thinning ratio is 15% for metallics. And it's like 15% reducer leaves you somewhere like 40 seconds, you know what I mean? So I've gone 20%, which they recommend for solids, So I've gone more than what they even recommend, and I'm still a little bit above their own recommendation. So I have made a mention to that in previous videos, but it's just, I don't even care. So don't get me wrong. I know I can come across quite passionate sometimes, as if I'm like really angry about something, but I don't know. I guess I'm not fussed about it. I just get passionate about things, you know what I mean? And I don't know. It's just strange. It's weird. Like I don't know why they would do stuff like that. And again, it's like the paint reps don't even know half the time when you ask them, you know. And what they say is they always say, "I'll read the tech data sheets," but then, as I say, like when you read the tech data sheets, they contradict the computer. And again, like what I was telling you about not putting only fast reducer in, that's what it says on the tech data sheet. But go onto the computer, and this primer here that I mixed up, it's got only fast reducer in it. So man, that shouldn't even be an option. if only fast reducer is going to make it delaminate, well then why have you got the formula on the computer with only fast reducer in it? Like, again, I don't really care, but it's just, I don't know, like banging my head up against the wall just trying to figure this shit out, and they don't come out that much. And look, I'm not dissing the reps themselves. No doubt they've got a hectic schedule. I'm 100% not dissing them, because they seem to be fine, you know. But with Axalta, they would send their guys out, and they would periodically send them out. They'd make sure they come out, like, you know, once every month or so. I need to get some trim tape. Yeah, so they would send their reps out, and they'd make sure you're happy, make sure that, you know, look, oh, that's what fell over. I thought it was this thing shutting. Oh, that's what that sound was from before. That's not good. Yeah, with Axalta, man, they'd always send the reps out from Axalta and from the paint distributor as well. Like they would have a tech, more, like lots of tech reps. But yeah, that's, oh, is there any issues? You having any problems? So, you know, in those instances where you got this problem with you not having the correct primer, you just mention it to the reps and they'd sort it out. But it's sort of like, you know, I've sort of raised the issue, and it seems like they haven't really done much about it, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh yeah, we'll sort that. We'll give you this primer to use on your dark jobs, because I mean, it's more important with your waterborne. You know, everyone's going on about the environment, and it's like, if you really care about the environment, you should be making that does actually impact the environment, the correct shaded primer. You have to put less paint on, and then you're spending less time drying it off, you know. Yeah, I'm just surprised that it's not a default method or a recommended method, and it's just a massive oversight. And I just can't believe that they wouldn't know, like, about something as shading your primers, you know what I mean? And I mean, they do know, because they've got their wet on wet shaded, but just not every job needs prime. Like this job here, I don't want wet on wet down the side of this car. I don't want to put wet on wet down there and get overspray. Let's just say I'm blending here. I don't want to, you know, get overspray. Now, you probably could keep it down there, but these booths, you guys have seen them. Even just spraying down here, mate, with 2 bar spraying down here, you're going to get overspray all over your blends, like it or not. That's just how, you know, these booths are. So, yeah, and I don't know, on the body, that's my rule of thumb. I made this rule of thumb a little while ago when I started working here. Now, sometimes I break it, but so one of them is I either wet on wet a full panel, or I don't wet on wet it at all. I don't like doing half panels, because you can get profiling. And also, generally, I try to avoid wet on wetting panels that are on the car. So I don't mind wet on wetting stuff that's off the car, like all these bolt-on panels. But and as I say, like sometimes I break it, sometimes you just got to do what you got to do to get the job done. But generally, I will avoid doing wet on wet on the body of the car that's masked up. Now, you'll probably say, oh yeah, well, I do sometimes, as I say, like I do sometimes. So even on those resprays, I wet on wet them, and that's just because that's the procedure, you know. I've inherited that procedure, and look, to be honest, it works great, you know. I can't fault that. But yeah, obviously it's a respray, so you don't have blends to think about. And yeah, it's all good, man. It's all good. I've been pretty happy at work lately, and as I've always said, you know, like PPG may not be my favorite paint system, but it's not bad, you know what I mean? So it's definitely not bad. So yeah, don't get me wrong when I criticize it. It's just, I want you to do better, you know what I mean? But then on the other hand, I did hear from one of the reps yesterday, and he reckons that PPG are bringing out like a lot of new products next year, so that will be pretty exciting to see what they can come up with. And he was also saying that something to do with like an update on the computer too, which is going to bring them probably in line with Standox and, you know, the Axalta systems, where they're going to be doing more shading on your colors. When you're doing Spectro, and you're going to be able to do like a comparison, like a color comparison like you can on Standox and the Axalta systems. So this is, I'll tell you what happened when I did the color matching on this job. So there's no color chips. Okay, so I'm flying blind for starters. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll Spectro it. And then it turns out, well, there's only 3 different colors to choose from. There's only 3 different formulas for this color, right? So I'm like, man, I don't trust this Spectro 100% because it doesn't do any shading as it is at the moment. So I'm like, look, I'm just going to start off with the standard variant and just mix it up and see what it's like. Do 150 mils, test it, see what it's like. It was a little bit too dark and very yellow. So I'm like, okay, I'll mix up the second one, which was the lighter variant. And it was way too light and way too yellow. So I'm like, you know what, man? I'm just going to have to go back to the standard formula, which was better than the lighter one, and then just leave out a lot of the yellow. And that was, I think that was it, like, yeah, 2 of the different, one of the yellows and one of the reds out of the color. So I mixed the color up 3 times. I had to, you know, like you've got to mix up test amounts, like 150 mil testers, because if you don't, you just don't know what you're going to get with this system. So don't get me wrong, like there's ways around it, and I didn't waste any paint. I used all of the paint that I mixed up, and yeah, but as I say, if this was Standox, I would have Spectroed it, and as long as it gave me a high rating number, I would have confidently mixed a whole lot up once. And if it needed a little tint, which they generally do, like you might need to add a little bit of this and a little bit of that, it's not that big of a deal. So I would have confidently mixed up 1.3 litres for a job this size, and confidently known that I wasn't going to be wasting any paint or turfing it out because the colour was that bad, you know what I mean? Whereas, yeah, like let's just say I had taken their Spectro reading and mixed up 1.5 litres, I would have had 1.5 litres of crap. That, I mean, because you can't take, I ended up having to leave out 40% of one of those reds, which is a massive amount. There was 100 grams of this funky red in it, and I ended up leaving 40 grams out of that. So I left out a lot of that red, and the color was pretty good after leaving that red in, but once that red's in there, you can't take it out, you know what I mean? That's why you've got to mix up those test amounts, like, and then make sure, okay, well, that needs to be left out, you know what I mean? Yeah. So hopefully you've been able to follow me. Yeah, we're still recording. Just making sure I wasn't talking to myself. I've done that before. Alrighty. So we're pretty much ready to do those little bits of trim tape. Hopefully we can get it up under here. We should be able to. Sometimes they can get a bit tight. There we go. Nice. That's why I got the 3M stuff over the trim tape. The trim tape's a bit weak as piss, and I knew that was going to be tight. So yeah, I've actually been smashing the TikTok videos lately, surprisingly. Like, I used to hate the whole idea of TikTok. I mean, you'd go down to the park and you'd see, you know, young girls doing their cringy ass dancing and their TikTok dances and that, and I think maybe the platform's matured, or maybe it always was more than that, you know what I mean? But yeah, I've been doing cool little videos over there, just I don't know, just spray gun videos, and just they're short videos. The whole idea of TikTok is just, you know, I think 3 minutes is the maximum you can do over there. I mean, they may have extended it for certain people, but generally it's just short videos over there on TikTok. But I'm surprised at how much I've been enjoying it. So if you want to go and branch out and find me on some alternate media, go and check out my TikTok page. There's always a link in the description. TikTok and Rumble and BitChute. I've been slowly uploading my back catalogue to Rumble and BitChute. Rumble looks like it's going to be the next sort of big competitor to YouTube, which competition is always good for the consumer. We all know that YouTube's been a bit heavy on the censorship stuff, so that's where I think Rumble's going to be a bit better. Or they have been a bit better than that. So not so much me. I can pretty much talk about anything I would want to talk about. But I know some people in the political side of things, they don't feel as if they can fully express themselves because they're scared that, you know, YouTube's going to ban them. And I can see from both sides, you know, like YouTube's got the their advertisers which they don't want to scare off, so, you know. Yeah, usually I like them to put that down, but I didn't know where the panel beater was. I had a look in the car, I didn't know where the window winder was. So it's an electric window, so you need to get the door trim and hook it up. I'm like, man, it's getting to that point in the day where I just got to get this bloody thing in the booth and get it masked up, because as I was saying before, it just feels like this job's taken forever. All that fiddly stuff, like that colour, man. Like I got... That colour would have taken half an hour, whereas I would have guaranteed, man, if this was standox, you'd have it in 15 minutes, you know. And yeah, even just physically mixing colours up, that takes time, you know what I mean? You've got to put like 10 different bloody tinters in, and you've got to do that 3 different times, you know what I mean? As it turned out, the third time it was pretty good. It did need a little tweak, a bit of this and a bit of that, but yeah. Well, what I actually ended up finding, because this has all been done before, so there's different colours up here and here. The whole side's been done before. My colour is actually better than the paint that was on the side, so I'm actually going to bring my colour the whole way up. Yeah, so technically that's not even going to be a blend. So now I've got to get my prep sole out. Get my gloves out too. So yeah, I think I'll do a separate video for the base coat and clear coat on this job, but first up, put some gloves on. That prep sole on your hands, man, it really dries them out big time. It's not good for them. Where is my prep sole bottle? I think it's out here. So as I say, technically I'm not even going to be blending anything on this job. Maybe here, but it was actually flaky paint up the top there, so yeah, pretty much that's the only spot that's going to get blended. Solid prep work on this job too. No cut throughs. I mean, there was 1 or 2 down there which I've already spotted a bit of primer over. Well, as I said, I did actually have to re-prime the whole job because the repairs weren't that good. I mean, they weren't that bad. I've seen much worse, but That was, as I was saying before, it's good to have got on the job a little bit earlier, so I had time to throw a couple more coats of primer over it last night so I could dry overnight. Otherwise I'd be stuck using some UV primer last minute rush. But yeah, it's all good, man, all good. I actually recently got a set of blocks from a guy in the UK. He made them himself, Gavin Pink at the paint shop. Go and check him out. He's here on YouTube too. YouTube, Instagram and Facebook. Gavin Pink at the paint shop. Go give him a follow if nothing else, but he also does have some pretty cool blocks there. The good thing about his blocks is that they've got they're dustless blocks, so you can plug your vacuum up to it and keep the dust out of your face. Probably a handy thing to have for those of you playing from home. Anyway, let's give this a blow off and a tack rag. And we'll probably just about call that a vid, because I reckon I'll do a separate one on the base coat. There you can see there, whoever painted it last time didn't do a very good job. All their clears flaking up, the colour was different here to here, so I'll just colour down the whole side pretty much. As I said before, the colour from there to there was different, so I've been loving these 3M tack rags, they're good. I think they're called like 3M Aqua or something like that. As always, be sure to go and check me out on alternate media if you would like to support the show. There's also links in the description where you can go and buy my merchandise. And until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gunman out. Woo!